I think it's the early years in life as a child. The culture of work, hard work. When you come from the culture in which I was born, the cattle culture, the farming culture, it teaches you a lot. You know, responsibility at an early age. Obviously, accountability, because you got to be given a duty to do. You were made responsible. You were accountable for it. And I think that works its way into a person years later. And of course, one fundamental asset we can never overlook is education, formal education. After, you know, a particular age, we started working as kids, looking after cows, 4 years old, right? So when you became school going, then school was part of the occupation. But then we continued looking after cattle, bigger animals, together with school. So I started at a local school called Moya School, just next to Wengo School, grade 1 up to grade 4. So I went up to, obviously, up to first degree government schools. So people's sponsorship, very important. Citizens sent us to school. It wasn't the duty of our parents per se, because the school system was that you went to a government school in the local. There was no nursery, so you went straight into grade 1. So, and the government paid for us. We didn't even realize that. We came to know later that it was courtesy of the people of Zambia through the government, decent government then, of Dr. Kenneth Count, who believed in education. And that's why I believe in it, because this is the formation. This is the HH creation. It was school. Friday. Friday was a good day for us because we knew no more uniform, right? No more uniform. Remember, I went to school 3 years without shoes, and I'm very proud of that. And no child should feel inferior. If they do feel inferior, they must see themselves in this child that time. I actually see myself in them, but no one, no child should be made to feel inferior because of that background. So anyhow, Friday was the best day. There was no uniform, no rigidity in terms of regime of the dress, and we went and dressed the way we wanted. And obviously shorts and khaki shirts. And straight on Friday, we went to a cattle post. Don't forget that that time, basically, we had a teacher who picked you up in grade 1 and took you into grade 4. Then handed you over to another teacher in grade 5, 6, 7. Ironically, you won't believe it, I was only taught by 2 teachers. From grade 1, one teacher, passed on now, his name is Chikampa, grade 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I changed schools. My uncle was teaching somewhere in Pemba West, a school called Kandela School for grade 5, 6, 7. Unbelievably, my uncle, my mother's elder brother, Mr. Hichilem, he was also Mr. Hichilem, right, yeah. Raphael Hichilem, he's still alive. He's 84 years old. Was my teacher from grade 5, 6, 7. And then I went to secondary school.
Fate had it that I didn't want to go to the copper belt. As a young teacher, because I was only 22 then, I learned that the copper belt pupils were very naughty, and I knew no Bemba. So I was so scared. I developed cold feet. I exchanged with a friend who went to Chikola Secondary School, and I went to Kalombo Secondary School. The deputy took me around the classes that I would handle to introduce this new Miss Zulu that had come. Obviously, I was a Lusaka girl with different styles. I looked different in high heels, and you know, I walked into this room where there were all boys, 4A, and I was introduced to that class. I felt so bad because everybody went, I didn't know what they were saying. I was introduced to another class just like that. I went round, I was going to take this 4A in English language. Day by day, I started learning their names, you know, mastering them and so on. Little did I know that in this 4A, where Hakainde Hichilema was, I would one day be called a teacher of a prominent Zambian. But you know, sometimes you can tell, because even as a parent, you can tell that this child is going to be like this. There's something about Hichilema that I noticed even as his teacher in that room. I even remember where they were facing. If this room was facing south, Hakainde's row was always in the middle. He was steadfast. You know, you start assessing your pupils. He was very strong in the subject. I developed a serious liking for him. He's one person, even when you are marking his book, his handwriting, his construction of sentences, in composition, would make you go fast. You don't really think. So that is Hichilema. And I taught him for 2 years before he went to university. Things
have changed. We must accept that things have changed, starting with the leadership. That time we had the Kaunda leadership that believed in education. I guess not just because Kaunda was a teacher himself, but because that generation of leaders were responsible. They loved the people that they led. Remember, they were independence freedom fighters, and they took opportunity to run the country. They had a mission. We don't see that in today's leadership. They had a purpose. We don't see that in today's leadership. They used resources, public resources, for the people, not for themselves. And this distinction, this parallel, gives you the state of affairs in many sectors today, including education, where education is underfunded, where a child today who is coming through the village or an urban, peri-urban, location in town is unable to access school the way I did, the way we did. That's a tragedy. When they go to school, if they do, there's no desk. There are no textbooks. There are no exercise books. This is the situation obtaining today. I was going round marking desk after desk. When I got to Hichilema's desk, he was like, he didn't know what to do. For the first time, I didn't understand. It stuck to me because here is somebody that I call steadfast, somebody who is dependable, somebody that I would say, bring the books to my storeroom. Because immediately after I started teaching, I became head of department. So you tell him to bring the books, he will bring. Others would delay or they would say, no, I forgot a book and so on. But this particular day, I didn't know why. Until later in our life, when I interacted with him, he said to me, one day, when before I walked into their class, into their classroom, his friend said, Hichilema, you are the most brave in this room. Can you write a note to Miss Zulu and say, I love you? He wrote, he wanted to hand it over to me, but he failed because he looked at me and he didn't know what my reaction was going to be. Well, what I remember of him very well is the fact that he was very good at church. A very strong Adventist. We would have activities on Saturdays. I didn't see Hichilema so much. He was committed to his church. So I saw him a lot active in the church business. Also in the debate society, where I was always a moderator because I was in charge of English in the school. He was very, very good, and his points stuck. one of the reasons that we're seeking public office, amongst many, is to give education the support it needs, to give our children the best inheritance, and that's education. And I see that because I'm a beneficiary of that, and I want to confer that, we want to grant that to the children of Zambia. So improve the conditions of schools, which are dilapidated now, basically get the desks back in schools through investing more in education, increasing the spend, the stipend, the spend on education, taking away money being wasted, for example, in useless expenditure, consumption expenditure that we see today, like buying a presidential jet. It's unnecessary when there are no desks in school. That's why we've made it very clear ourselves, we won't need that jet, presidential jet. It's an embarrassment for a president in a poor country to be lavishing themselves in a Gulf Stream. This is top of the range of the private jets. You spend $130 million to buy a Gulf Stream, then you have a maintenance contract of $200 million. So $330 million on one individual. We want to reverse that situation. Decide our priorities correctly. That is not priority spending. Take that money into schools. As I said, desks, textbooks, back in schools, and teachers, enough teachers. I want you to remember this interview. Make a note of this interview. When we take public office, God's will, courtesy of the people of Zambia, we will ensure that a child gets this inheritance, this investment, by giving them the support that they need as a priority. First, the child is entitled to that. It's a human right. Education is a human right. All of our people across the country, irrespective of the language they speak, where they were born, the circumstances they find themselves in, it is critical for us to invest in skills. Take this child. Yes, we want the child to be educated, but we want more than just educating a child. We want a skill set that that child is able to bring into the community, into society, into the economy, so that that skill, that talent, we can use it to manage the economy. Because we believe in running our country, when our time comes into office, based on meritocracy. Simple, straight. Merit will prevail. So we need this skill for the economy. And then we need the skill for life, if you like, support. It's not just jobs we're interested in. It's also self-employment, entrepreneurship. And we see education as that package, more than to benefit a child. But why not? More than to benefit a family. And why not a family? But benefit the economy, benefit society. HH is now, if you like, a child of society. I am a child of society. So I want more HHs. We want to produce more HHs, actually better than HH. That's one of my focal points, our focal points.